Hey guys, TC Mabe with TC Gaming. I'm going to apologize in advance. My throat's a little sore and scratchy, but I wanted to get this video out to you. I'm working on a project that involves using Character Creator 3 and an Unreal Engine project, and I wanted to show you a quicker workflow for making all those things connect. I had done a video on this previously, but I think it was a little too complex and convoluted. This is much simpler. So in order for this to work, if you have Character Creator 3, you go to the plugin section, and under the plugin section is going to be a Character Creator and iClone Auto Setup. Get the tool for Unreal. This will take you out to the website where you can go and download the package, and then once you download that package and install it, it's basically going to put that into a folder for you, like Program Files, Real Illusion, Shared Plugins, Auto Setup, Unreal. And then you go in and get the version that you're using. In my case, I'm using 426, and you want to take the content and plugins folders. You want to copy these, and then you would go to whatever your project file is and paste those in. So in my case, I would go to my project file here, and on the drive, you would go into this root folder of your project and just paste those in right there. Now I've already done that. When you start your project up or restart your project after doing that, you should see a CC setup utility here. And in previous videos, I pulled all this in and I let the CC3 setup utility build the skeleton for me. Well, the problem with that is, even though it comes pre-configured and mapped for an Unreal Engine character, you have to retarget everything to make that work. So we're going to do something a little bit different this time. In my project, I'm just going to right-click and create a new folder. And I'm going to call this CC3 _ characters. You can call it whatever you want to, but this is where I'm going to import my things to. So go back over to CC3. We have our character, and what we want to do is we want to put this in an A pose that matches the Unreal Engine setup, so you can see how his arms are kind of tilted down and forward like they are in Unreal Engine. In order to get this, you go over to your pose section, and under motion you'll find, if you scroll down in here, you'll find a thing that says Open A UE4. So you want to apply that pose to your character. That's going to set him in the proper orientation. After you have your character set for that particular pose, you're going to go up here and say File, Export, FBX Clothed Character, and your target tool is going to be Unreal. I typically select Mesh and Motion. I put my max texture size to 4096. I include the motion with the current pose. I use the first frame and bind pose, and then I use delete hidden faces. These are my typical settings for exporting these out. So when I hit export, it's just going to warn you that you're not going to be able to bring this back in if you make changes. I'm going to say OK, and it's going to ask for a folder. I stick my things in here in a folder just called CC3. I'm working on a modular character. I'm just going to call this character 01. Okay, so we would hit save here, and that's going to export the files that we need out to our folder. Let's give that a second to run. Usually doesn't take too long. Okay, now that everything's been exported out to our folder, we would go back into our project, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to just slide this off to the side a little bit. And we're going to go out to our directory where we had exported everything. In my case, again, this was under CC3 modular, and there's my character 1 file. So I'll minimize these out of the way. And what we want to do is we're going to take this CC3 modular character 01 file, and we'll just drag it into our CC3 character folder. Now when this brings in for the import, it's going to ask you the settings for the auto setup. We're just going to pick high quality shader, hit OK. And this is like a lot of the other processes you'll see out there, but here's the difference. When we start to bring this in, we're going to pick a different skeleton instead of the default skeleton that comes with CC3. Okay, now that that has finished, we can come in here and look at our settings. So we want to leave it on skeletal mesh and import mesh. But what we want to do is assign a skeleton. So in this particular project, I have a couple of different mannequin skeletons, but I want to get the one that comes with the actual game that I'm working on here. So in this one, it's the game kit, survival game kit 2. That mesh already has all the sockets and everything on it we need for the game, and it already has all the animations to it. So what we want to use is assign that one. And I'm going to go ahead and say import animations. I usually just say animated time. probably not that big of a difference. And expand this out, and we just want to make sure that a couple of settings in here are defined. Normally, actually up here a little bit further, I think there's another one too. Yeah, we want to go in here and say use T0 as reference pose. And then we also want to import Morph Targets. So make sure that these two are on. And we'll scroll down through here, again, import animations, animated time. I don't think I change anything in here. And under material, we're going to say do not search and do not create materials. We're going to let the plugin handle those particular things, and do not import textures. Okay, so just shut all that off and hit import all. And this is going to take a minute to bring everything in. So again, I'll be back when this is done. Okay, that might take you a little while to do that, but after everything's done, you should see your character in your folder here. And I normally just go through real quick and hit save all, save selected. And during that process, you're going to see a bunch of other things pop up telling you that they've set some things as normals, and just other basic errors, not errors, but warnings, pieces of information that's coming in. So again, I like to save everything after I import it. And the benefit, again, of doing what we did here is that we've assigned our CC3 character directly to our other mannequin that was already in the folder. So when we load this character up, and we also brought in the morph targets, the nice thing now is that we can go, let's zoom up a little bit here if we can. Whoops. Sorry, I got my mouse cranked way up here. Zoom in on this guy's face. If anybody knows a better way to get this hair to look right inside of Unreal Engine, please let me know. I've been working on that for a while, and once I figure it out, I'll share it with you guys. Anyway, if I zoom in on this guy's face, what you can see is because we have the morph targets in here, we should be able to manipulate some of the character attributes here. So like, for example, here's his brow. So, whoop, it's the, it's got to compile the shaders real quick. Hold on. After it compiles the shaders for his hair and everything, though, I'll show you that you can manipulate these, and it's basically going to allow his face to morph and things like that. You may not be able to hear me while those shaders are compiling. Sometimes that cuts out my mic. Okay, so after the shaders compile and we're back on here, his hair doesn't look terrible, but it just doesn't look as good as it would in CC3. But the point again is that, now that you have this in here, you should be able to manipulate some of his features. So for example, if I do an eye blink, I can manipulate that. So you could actually set up a timer or something, on your character, that every once in a while he would blink, or as he would start to get, extremely fatigued or tired or whatever, maybe his eyes start to droop off every once in a while. But you can manipulate all these things because you brought in the morph targets, okay? And there's other videos out there for explaining how to work with those morph targets. But the other thing is, because we assign this directly to a regular skeleton, you'll see here that I have all of the things on here that came with this particular game pack, which means he can equip items and weapons and armor and everything right out of the gate now. And also, if I look at all the animations that are assigned to this character, what's going on with that? I'm going to have to take a look at that right there. Okay, a little bit of a false alarm there. What happened was, when I pulled these in, I didn't realize when I went to the animation browser, I was actually seeing every animation that was in here. So some of these animations just aren't targeted onto the skeleton that character was on. So whatever I happen to pick, you'll see some of these won't look right because they're actually tied to, like, maybe the AI skeleton or some other thing that hasn't been remapped yet. So sorry about that. I saw his arms all whacked out. That's just because of whatever I happen to be clicked on. But you can see that the other animations, they appear that they're not distorting his body or anything like that. So you should be in good shape. So now that that's in there, and again, sorry for the false alarm there. It kind of freaked me out for a second too. What we want to look at here is our character could now get applied to our asset in here in the game directly, because again, it uses that particular thing. But what I want to do is I want to go back a little bit further, and I want to, or not back a little bit further, but I want to go in here and say, let's say, for example, we have some assets that we want to put on this character. Let me show you real quick what happens if I don't do this. Let me go down to Survival Kit V2. And again, this would be for any project that you're working on. Let me just look for the character. I'm trying to spell it. Master character blueprint in here. SGK master character. Excuse me. So in this particular thing, we have a character in here already, but this is being built out of modular parts, which is what I'm eventually going to do with the other one. Let's check our tags here. Okay, make sure there's nothing assigned. I'm going to go through and just detag these and take these other assets out real quick. Let me get rid of the tags first. In SGK V2, you can assign tags to these different components, and then when you put on certain things, you can have it hide these components based on the tag. So for example, if you put on gloves, you want to hide your hands so that your hands don't have bleed through into the gloves, typically referred to as clipping. Same thing with your head. If you put on a helmet, you might want to hide your hair or something like that, or if you put on a full helmet, you might want to hide the head. So let me take those off of there, and then we'll also go through and we'll strip the skeletal meshes from these. We'll just clear this all out real quick so I can show you the regular character. And get rid of this upper shirt and his legs. You wouldn't have to do this to a normal project. We're just working on something here where we're going to have modular. Let me clear all this out. And the thing that I brought in is just a solid mesh. So I'll just go pick character 1. And I have this mesh component hidden also. So that has to be set to visible. Again, you wouldn't have these issues most likely in your game. So there's our mesh. And if I got here and hit play, we should see our character is now in the game. And again, since he has all the same stuff on there that comes with the game, I can actually go and equip things to this character and pick stuff up. So he works. All of his animations are already set up and everything. Okay, so that's the nice thing about just applying it right to the skeleton. So now I want to show you what happens if we go back into our game here and we decided we wanted to make some attachments for that guy. And let me show you why this is going to be different. If I go over to these attachments that came with one of the Polyphoria kits, they are set up for the Polyphoria assets. But if I go over here and equip this, you can see it's not quite right on my character because our skeletal frames are just a little bit different. Now I could probably go into the Polyphoria asset and move that up a little bit just inside of the blueprint, but I'm going to show you a slightly different thing that you may be interested in. So let's go and look for a vest in the Polyphoria pack, which I believe is called Modern Military. And so here is a couple different vests here. We'll get this one, Military Heavy Vest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this skeletal mesh object and I'm going to right click on this and say Asset Actions Export. And it's going to give me the FBX file. And for this I'll just put it like on my desktop. So we're going to go FE Military Vest. That's a female military vest. Let's find a male one. Is there male upper body vest heavy? We'll grab this one here, light 2A. So we'll do the same thing. We'll go Asset Actions Export, and so military vest, we'll put that on our desktop. That's the light 02 with the scarf. So if we hit save and export, that should just dump that out to, in my case, the desktop here. Now, if you have 3D Exchange, or if you have any other way to convert an FBX into an OBJ file, that's what you would want to do for Character Creator 3. So I'm going to go over and say File, Open. I'm going to go to my desktop and get that vest that we had. Let it import this in. And just say OK. Now, I'm not worried about any of the actual materials here because I already have them in the Unreal Engine. So here's our vest coming in, and I would just simply go out here and say File, Export to Other Format, and we'll export this as an OBJ file. It's going to leave it exactly the same way that it is. Hit OK. And all that's doing is converting it from FBX to OBJ. Alright. So now I should have an OBJ version of that setting probably there. If we right click, go to properties, we can tell that's our OBJ file. So let's go and rename this for a second. Let's rename it MA Military Vest Light 02 Scarf. A lot of name there. And I'll just call it OBJ. Just so I know in the other thing real quick what it is. So if I go back into Character Creator, we can go in here and say Create Accessory. And that's going to look for an OBJ file. So if I go to the SKMA Military Vest object that we just created a second ago, the OBJ, I can bring this in. And again, I'm not worried about the materials, but now we can see that object is brought in for our character. And what we can do is we can click on this object and we can go down here and we can change the position of it. So if we move this, we can move it down a little bit, you know, get it in closer to the arms or whatever, just to make it look like it fits a little bit more. You can move it back and forth. Now it's got a little bit of room in there for you know, for putting a jacket or a shirt underneath of it. But, you know, if you wanted to, you could tighten it up or whatever. I'm just going to leave it the way that it is because I'm just trying to get you a high-level type thing here. And the other thing you normally want to do with these is when you have this, you would highlight that thing again. Now, we can come down here and look at this thing that says we can transfer skin weights on it. We want to go to this thing and say make it like a default, just apply, just to make sure that the skin weights are actually transferred to this skeleton. And then the other thing you can do is when you have this highlighted, you can go to this hide mesh body tool. Now this works with objects and things that are on, like if I used that on his underwear, I could hide parts of his body. So we'll go to hide mesh body tool, and this just gives us a little dummy, so we can say hide his head, his arms, his chest, legs, feet. We got his hands. Yeah, make sure you have, there's a mirror tool here also I didn't have turned on, but that should pretty much have hidden all the character. Now the thing I can't figure out in here is this deal with his eyes and teeth and everything coming in. For whatever reason, I can't seem to locate where they're at. But when you're done with that, you just come off the hide body mesh tool, and so if I were to take these underwear, pull those off of there, should be able to take his hair attachments off, delete that, and see I also have his beard in here, delete that, and I'm left over with like this little mustache, and this is the part that I can't seem to get rid of to save my life. Now somebody else might know how to do that. What I've been doing is I just go ahead and export it out with the character, and then when I get it into Unreal Engine, I just set all these as being transparent or use some object that didn't render properly so it's not there. There's probably a better way. I've even gone into scene, and if you go into scene, sometimes you can find stuff in here on the avatar, but I can't get those to hide. So even if I go in here and set these as not visible here, I still have this tongue, and I guess these are just eyebrows. I could probably get rid of those. Yep. See, it's not letting me double click on that tongue. But anyway, we'll just work with what we got. There's something left over there. I don't know what that is. Neck stubble. So we'll get rid of everything we can. And then now what we want to do is basically, now that this is all hidden, we want to go back out here and say File, Export, FBX Clothed Character. And again, we're going to export it out for Unreal, max texture size. And on this right here, we only really need to export the mesh. We don't need to worry about the motion. But we want to definitely say delete hidden faces. And we're going to export this out, say OK. And so we'll call this character Well, actually, we'll just call it vest with scarf. I think that's what it was. I mean, it had its own naming convention, but we'll just call it this. So we'll save that, and I'll show you how to get rid of this tongue, hopefully. We'll give that a minute to process, and I'll be back. Okay, now that that's done processing, we can go over here, and we are going to have, same thing we did before, we'll have this little vest with scarf thing, and we'll pull up our project file. We'll go back to our CC3 characters, and I am just going to create another folder under the characters. I'll say new, whoa, my mouse is all over the place all of a sudden. CC3 characters, and we'll say new folder. And that new folder we're going to call, now my mouse is slow. Okay, let's call this new folder attachments. We can call it whatever we want to. I'm just going to call it attachments. And I'll go to this little folder over here, and I'm going to pull that vest with scarf in and use the high quality shader. And what we want to do here is, of course, pick the same skeleton that we used earlier for the game kit. Leave all the other settings the same as they were, and just say import all. And we'll just give that a second to process, and we'll be right back. Okay, now that the auto processing is complete, we can take a look at this vest with scarf, and what we should see is that it doesn't have any of the materials on it, and here's the tongue and eyes and all that. So what I do to get rid of a lot of this stuff, if I can, is I'll see how this eye doesn't have anything here? What I'll do is I'll try and find that eye, and then I'll just apply it to the other things that I want to get rid of, and you'll see it starts to hide them. And it's just because there's no material assigned there. Now you could also do this a little bit cleaner by going and create a transparent material and just assign the transparent material to those. And for some of this stuff, again, I don't know how to get rid of that, but if somebody else figures that out, please feel free to let me know. I know an easy way to do it would be to take it into something like Blender and delete all those things in there and then bring it back over. What we want to do though is scroll on down here now to the where the actual vest is at. If you open this up, you'll see that you don't have material on here, and it's got an instance name on the back of it. But if you just look near that area, you're typically going to find it. So here's MI Soldier Body Vest 01. If we apply that, it'll pick it up. Same thing here. We're just going to go down to the next one. So that says belt instance, but there's the tactical belt right here. And if we do the same thing on this one, there's the backpack instance, but here's the backpack right here. And same thing for radio olive. We just look for radio olive like that. And then we have our scarf would just be here. Okay, so by doing that, we should be able to assign all of the materials that were originally on this object. And you can see that we have it transparent. And if you were to go in here to say character bones all hierarchy, you'll see that there's actually a skeleton underneath of this. We just don't see it because we took all the skin off of it and deleted the hidden faces on the export. Okay, I'm going to take that back off. So we'll just say none here, and we'll save this. Now we have our vest with scarf. I don't want to get all the way down in there. That's where I went and located that. So let's go back up to our CC3 characters here, for attachments rather. And what I'll do is I'll just go real quick back into this main blueprint, and I'll just stick this on there as a skeletal mesh attachment. So again, I'll just look for my main character in the survival game kit, get his blueprint, and if I were to, I'm just going to put it on him instead of turning that into an attachable object out there in the game, and I'll just show you in here. So we'll just say put that on his torso. So we have a thing called vest with scarf. Vest with scarf. If I bring that in, you can see it attaches right there. Under the construction script, since I have the torso assigned to the master pose component, I do this in a lot of other videos, but since these things are set up to go to the master pose component, this will automatically animate with whatever's happening on the character. So if I compile this and go back to my showcase window and hit play, what you should see is that character now is wearing that vest that we had laying on the table over there earlier that we couldn't wear properly because, well, it's not the same one, but it's you get the idea. You could do it with the other ones, and it fits his character pretty decent looking. Okay, so hopefully this helps you guys. I know we covered a lot of ground in there and some tools that you may not have. Some of these are fairly expensive tools, but I bought them a while ago for another project, and I finally got into using them. Came up with some optimized workflows and some shortcuts and everything, so hopefully this helps you guys out. Again, my name's TC Mabe with TC Gaming. Pretty soon I'm going to be making an announcement. Some of you probably haven't watched the video this far, so it doesn't matter that I say this, but MSOD Brushbeard, the guy who created the platformer game development kits, MSOD Brushbeard and I have formed a company called Hilltop Games, and we are working on releasing a platform game sometime very, very soon. We have our demo level that's just about ready for release, early access on Steam. And then we're going to have hopefully the full game done by the first part of next year. We're trying to get it released in time for April. Okay, so there will be an exciting announcement about that coming up soon. Hopefully you guys get a chance to check that out and maybe help support the growth of that particular project. If any of these videos have helped you in any way, drop a like, share them, and I'll get some more out for you as soon as I can. And again, if anybody knows how to get rid of these things on export, please feel free to leave me a comment in there. And again, the problem with the hair, bringing the hair into Unreal Engine, that's a known nuisance that a lot of people have been dealing with as well. So again, my name's TC Mabe. Thanks a lot for watching the video. You guys stay safe and take care. I'll see you again soon.